Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah, that was crazy, and it still makes me so emotional to watch that back because it's been such a amazing thing for my dad and I. But anyway, let's lighten the mood a little bit because I know it's kind of a heavy thing. But so what you didn't see in this video, because Hollywood likes to cut some things out, I thought I would share a few of them with you. So this jumpsuit that I was wearing in this video is, it's got a zipper, and we had to wear it for 5 days because this actually took 5 days of filming in order to get to the point where I would do the audition. So we're doing lots of interviews and things like that. And so we get to day 5, and I'm shimming my way into this jumpsuit that I've been sweating in, and it's like true denim. So it doesn't have any give. It's not forgiving at all. So I'm shimming my way into it, and all of a sudden I just hear pop. I'm like, oh no. So I look down, and this zipper is like totally busted, and I don't have any way to get another one in time for filming that day. So I'm walking around, and I fix it. I was able to get the zipper to go back to normal for a little bit, and then I sit down, and it starts unzipping slowly, and my underwear, I'm sorry if that's too TMI, but that starts showing, and then my belly starts showing. So I'm just like, this is not good for national television. So I'm trying to go to the concierge, and I'm like, do you have thread? I don't really know how to sew, but I'm hoping God will help me in this moment. So it worked, but then it popped again, slowly started unzipping. And I'm nervous because, you know, I'm gonna go into this room in front of these celebrity judges and sing this song. Well, thankfully, my guitar was my saving grace in that moment, because I'm like, well, it's at least if it's going downhill, at least my guitar is covering it. So the other issue, though, that's going through my head at this point is we have to prepare like 2 or 3 other songs so that if they ask us, you know, to hear more, then you have to perform another one. So the other song that I was going to be singing was not with my guitar, and it was at the piano. So I'm thinking, great, like if they ask me to sing another song, it's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna have to roll with it and hope that they only show from here up, and you know, everything else doesn't get aired on camera. So anyway, thankfully, as Luke was saying on the screen, you know, well, I'm hoping to see more dynamics in your voice, and I'm kind of crying, but also kind of like, oh dear Lord, like he's about to ask me, and it's just gonna happen, and this magical moment's just gonna be ruined by a zipper. So thank God they liked it enough, and the song was enough the first round to not have to sit at the piano and, you know. Anyway, so that's one story. Another thing, that was cool. How I even got started in all of this was my husband submitted me for American Idol. Due to COVID, you had to do everything via digital, no in-person anything. There's about 5 preliminary rounds before you even get considered to go and sing in front of these judges. And even then, you sometimes don't ever get aired. So it was just a huge blessing that I got to do that. But my thoughts before all this is, well, I don't want to submit for this because I actually, at 14 years old, submitted for The Voice, and I went and sang in person in front of them. Well, I was young and bold and daring and got a little too far ahead of myself and decided to have a stage name. And I typed it out. I'm like, oh, this will be so cool. Like, I'm gonna be this girl, and I'm gonna like strut on stage and be like, oh yeah, this is me. Well, I forgot that I wrote the stage name. So I like walk up to the table signing in for the Voice audition, and they're like, oh, you're so-and-so? And I don't want to say the name because it's like terribly embarrassing. So I'm like, so I just instantly, I'm like, great, okay. So I roll with it, I'm like, yeah. And then I like keep going, and through the whole day, I pretended to be someone that I'm not. Rookie mistake, don't ever do that. And so I didn't get through at all. And I thought this time with American Idol, you know, I really feel like, you know, God has shown me more of who I am. I'm more confident. I have my own music, and I really trust this process. Let's just do it. There's nothing else going on in the world right now. So I submitted for American Idol and, you know, shared who I actually am as a person, and that will take you a lot more places if you're just genuine and authentic. So I could go on about that forever. But so we submitted for this video, or for American Idol with the video. And we didn't hear back for about a month. So I'm kind of at this point like, yeah, it's like I haven't heard from them. It's probably not gonna happen. So about a day before I found out that they were considering me, my family and I were in Yellowstone, out of cell service, anything. And what's kind of funny is the night before I got the call that I was considered for the show, my husband and I, because he's a total outdoors, even though we have a indoor RV, which I would have preferred to stay in, Dylan, my husband, wanted to sleep in the tent. So I'm a good wife, like 6 months married, so I'm like, sure. Right now I'm probably like, no, I'm gonna sleep in the RV, you're fine. So we're sleeping in this tent. Dylan is a great sleeper. You can ask his parents. Since day one, he could sleep on hard concrete and just knock out. Not me. I'm a night owl. I stay up late, so he falls asleep. We're sleeping in these cots. They're not very comfortable, but I'm just laying there, and all of a sudden, it's like probably 3 a.m. Don't ask. I don't know why I was awake, but maybe something woke me up. Well, so I hear something walking up to our tent. Did I tell you this? It's terrifying. And I hear like grunting, like, sorry, I'm probably not doing this well enough because you're an actor. Okay. So I think it was a bear, like walking up to our tent. He's just knocked out and I'm laying there like, well, great. Like, I'm gonna die. Like, this bear thinks I'm food, can smell me, or you, because you probably smelled like outdoorsman. And, so I'm thinking, great, I'm gonna die. So this is the end. But thankfully, I made it through the night, fell back to sleep. The bear left. If it was a bear, I didn't look, because that would have also not been a good idea. And the next morning, we're leaving to go back to Colorado. And we're driving through no cell service. And I kid you not, right as we got into cell service, I got a call. It was God's timing. And I don't know what would have happened if I was not in cell service for that phone call to get the news that I was gonna be considered for American Idol. So that's pretty exciting. So then, background on the show. So I actually wasn't originally going to sing this song for my dad, but the producers want this story, and I'm usually very reserved about who I am as a person. I like to keep quiet and not, disclose my father's history of everything. But they asked about who I was, and I said, well, I actually wrote a song for my dad. So, of course, they're like, yeah, well, we would love for you to sing that on the show. So once we got there, I got to have a one-on-one interview with Ryan Seacrest, so that was pretty cool. That wasn't aired, but he's a super nice guy, total talk show host, just knows how to smile and ask you the right questions. So he's asking me all the details of this song, and I know you heard a little piece of it on the show, but this song for me was really just the start of trying to figure out who my dad was, and quite frankly, it wasn't me trying to figure out a way to forgive him. It was really just coming from a place of genuine curiosity, why is my dad so complex? Why is he the way he is? What makes him tick and whatnot? But something that's really cool is my dad's house that he grew up in is where my grandparents still live to this day. So every year for Christmas, we would go to my grandparents' house, and I would hear all these crazy stories about my dad. For instance, he told his younger sister that there's scratch and sniff blueberry scent at the bottom of the pool. Not smart. Bees don't sting, so you can grab them, hold them. Yeah, oops, she's probably got scars from that. And another one, he told his little sister, I have horrible aim. Actually, I have great aim is probably more what he said, because he liked to talk himself up. There's a dartboard. He's like, come here, put your finger up to it. I'll miss, I promise, because I have good aim. So she's smiling, okay. Straight into the finger. she just looks, starts screaming, and like runs. Her poor fingers, bee stings, darts, all of the things. So lots of funny stories. One other one that ended up being in the song, a few of them did, but my dad he loved fire, as a lot of little boys do. And my grandparents they live in a neighborhood, but the neighborhood is lined by a hill. So my dad used to love going over to the hill, and he lit it on fire. Oops. And it happened to be during my grandma's Bible study group. So my grandma's having her nice little women's Bible study, and all of a sudden she gets a knock on the door from a firefighter and a policeman at the same time, double whammy. And so she had to stop her Bible study because her young son had just lit the hill on fire. So all these fun stories, it's so cool for me to be able to, I'm very nostalgic, so it's been really cool to every year as growing up, going back to my dad's childhood home, hearing all these stories and just envisioning who my dad was as a person, and trying to put myself in his shoes. And that's really where this song came from for me. So wanted to share the full version with you today, if that's okay. So. Ooh, that's not good. Can you hear that all right? It's an hour and a 40-minute drive to a house we go for Christmas Eve each time. Adam and I fall asleep while Mom and Dad take time to keep tradition going, to stay alive. It's where my father lives since he had turned 2. It's where he learned to build up forts and burn down the front porch view during Grandma's Bible study group. Hey Dad, what were you trying to do? 'Cause we're just kids wondering why Dad's done what he's done in his life. He moved out by the age of 17, got hooked on smoke and took up cards for gambling. Wound up in the wrong crowd, couldn't figure this life out. Hey Dad, what were you thinking about? But you met a girl who was already engaged to a man who you wanted to replace. You swept her away, but who knew she'd be your saving grace? 'Cause we're just kids wondering why Dad's done what he's done in his life. 'Cause we're just kids wondering, hey Dad, how do I get it right? But as your little girl, I just want you to know I'm proud to see who you've become. I've loved the man I've come to know, and I'm your kid wondering, I'm just wondering, hey Dad, how do I get it right? 'Cause I think you have, and I'm proud of your life. lot of moving pieces here. Okay, I have notes. I'm not a motivational speaker or anything like that, so I need my little papers here, so bear with me. Okay, so one of the other things that you didn't see in this video, but you can imagine, when Katy Perry had told my dad that I had written a song for him, it took him a lot longer than 2 seconds to brace himself. It was actually, I don't know how I was even able to keep it together other than God, but my dad fell over and started bracing himself on the piano and just cried. Crazy. But also, on another note, there were some other funny Hollywood moments. So you saw on the screen we had a lot of interview moments where we're just sitting in lounge chairs talking to one another. And for me, I've been in LA for a few years. My husband's an actor, so naturally I've done a few acting gigs myself. So it's been more comfortable for me over the past few years to have cameras up in my face and people watching you, and you can smell their breath, and it's really awkward while trying to be super natural and oh, okay. But for my dad, this was all new. So having 5 camera crews all around and this big light and all these things going on he was just not having it. He's like, how am I supposed to have a normal conversation with my daughter with all this? So we're sitting there and I'm kind of guiding him through. I'm like, it's fine, Dad, it's all good. And at this point too, he didn't know that I had been sharing his story. So he just thought he was just my guest and just there to chat it up. And so anyway, so that's a side note, and I'll let you know a little bit more about that situation too. But we're sitting there, we're talking, and 20 minutes in, my dad finally gets to a point where he's comfortable. So we're talking, and then he starts crying. So he takes a minute, he's talking, crying, and all of a sudden you just hear, and so he's crying, and they're like, stop. And we're just and so he's kind of okay. And then there's a helicopter. So we call them the LA Eagles because in LA, there's not birds, there's no living creature, it's just lots of helicopters. So the LA Eagle was flying over us while we were having this really intimate moment. So anyway, he stops and he's like, okay, well, how do we start over? And they're like, okay, just wait. So we're all waiting there, da-na-na-na. Anyway, so then they're like, okay, start. And my dad's just trying to cry. And then we got back into the moment, but super funny and so Hollywood, and it's just, you'll never ever get used to it. But so there's that, and then also we were mic'd, so we would take a few breaks because it was just so hot outside, and having all these camera guys and lighting on you, you just had to take breaks. So my dad and I were on this lawn with lots of lounge chairs, and they're like, all right, we're gonna take a break for a few minutes and break off. So they're asking him these really pointed questions, and like I said, at this point, my dad did not know that I had shared about his life, our family history, anything like that. And so behind the camera, they're like, so, you've had a really hard life. How does that, how do you feel? And he just kind of looks at me what do they know about me? So anyway, we take this break, and we're still mic'd. So we walk over, and we're talking over here, just having a casual, father-daughter conversation, and then he casually brings up, so how do they know about me? And I'm trying to not say too much because I don't want him to know that I'm doing this thing for him and celebrating him. So I'm well, may have shared a few things. He's like, so they know about so my dad's a very harmless guy, and truth be told, he's an open book. Obviously, he likes to light fires and make a big thing about it. So he doesn't really care about any of this. Well, the producers don't know this. But what we also don't know is our mics are still on. So the producers hear my dad kind of what sounds like he's kind of pinpointing me hey, are you telling them about it? So all of a sudden, like, we're just having a casual conversation. And all of a sudden, you see like 12 people just like, no. Like, it was just like, it was slow-mo, like, no. And they're like, we don't know anything. And we're like, how did you know? And they're like, you're mic'd, so we can hear everything you're saying. So we're like, great. So we're just not having any private conversations at all. It's fine. So, really funny. But what's all that to say, funny jokes aside, this has been even more than I could have even imagined. I obviously, as a musician, you want your music to be put out there, but what's been so cool about this for me is how God has literally used this as a ministry for so many people. Once the show aired, we got so many responses and comments and DMs from me on my Instagram, and people writing letters and sharing how this has convicted them to reconcile a relationship with a parent or a son or daughter, someone who's struggling with addiction. Someone even wrote me saying that they're gonna start going to AA meetings. So that has been amazing to see how God has worked through that. And another thing that's been really cool is a nonprofit organization out of Nashville called Daddy Saturdays has reached out to me, and it is a organization that's working towards fighting fatherlessness, but also works with fathers to raise up good men who are really taking care of their family and loving their children well. So I'm so excited, and it's just so cool to see how, while I can share music, it still is a place of ministry, and I can have an outreach and work with people and share my life and hear about others. And it's been an amazing, amazing thing to be a safe place for people to come to and share some of the most vulnerable things in their life, especially the people who have lost family from this. So it's been a really cool way to cope with these people and share with them and use God's kingdom to further this work here on earth. And I think something that's been so cool for me is to work with them, but also I recognize how much of, while my dad was around growing up, I would definitely say because he was facing addiction, he was very, he wasn't present spiritually, mentally, any of that. And that's typically how it is when you have an addict in the family. They're just not really there. They're not fully themselves. And I had this my whole life. My dad has been struggling before I was even born. So for me, that really affected how I viewed myself and my worth. And I think so often that happens in families statistically with fatherlessness. Children develop differently. There's different issues. And given, obviously every home has their things, but fatherlessness is just a really hard thing. And I noticed for me in my life, fatherlessness and not having my dad there affected the way I viewed God. And for me, this was a really hard journey, but this eventually is what led me to understand God and love God and have a relationship with God. I went to the Dominican Republic on a missions trip my senior year of high school. And usually on missions trips, you're going to help other people. But I think so often you come back changed. And that's what happened to me on this trip. I had an identity shift. And I had a mentor on this trip who one day we were coming home from our sites that we were working on at this trip, and I walked into her bedroom and she was just laying there. I thought she was asleep, and oh, she's like sleeping. That's so nice, because we don't sleep at all on this trip because we're so busy. But something that was a really great thing that I learned on this trip is I like to call them prayer naps. So on our downtime, I would lay down and just close my eyes and pray until I eventually fell asleep. So my mentor is in her room, sleeping, I thought, and I'm laying down in my room having this prayer nap kind of thing, just being still and allowing God just into that moment. And she comes in and taps on me. And something about this trip too is oftentimes you can't have your phone on student trips, anything like that. No, nothing to distract you, which was amazing. But with that, for me, came I couldn't listen to music, and that for me has always been just like a grounding thing. So anyway, I'm having this prayer nap, and my mentor comes into the room and taps me, and she has a headphone. And she's like, I want you to listen to this. I know I heard you when you said you thought I was sleeping. I wasn't. And I was actually talking with God, and he gave me this basically word that I needed to share with you in this song. And so for me already, like being able to listen to a song on this trip was a big blessing. I got to listen to music. And then I had no expectations going into it other than she just told me, like, I know you struggle with your dad and your relationship with him. And given this was before he had chosen a life of sobriety, my dad and our relationship was kind of weird, not really there at the time. And so I put in the headphone, and she plays a song by Bethel Music called Extravagant. And if you've heard this song, or if you haven't, definitely listen to it. It's amazing. But for me, it really struck a chord that I didn't even know needed to be played. And the lyrics said, the ones that stood out to me were, it's extravagant, it doesn't make sense, we'll never comprehend the way he loves us. And as I was listening to this, God gave me this really, really vivid vision in my mind of me. I saw myself, and then I saw my dad standing in between, and then I saw God. And biblically, Jesus died on the cross for us and stands before us, for God to cover our sins and be holy and blameless. Well, for me, I had been putting my dad in that place, and I had lived in this bitterness and resentment from my father, and I really placed my identity in that and in that brokenness, and really was just like settling in the thought that, I was never gonna be good enough. I was gonna follow the same path that my dad, not that I really believed that, but I think subconsciously in my mind, I was living through the pain of my dad. And I instantly saw God in this vision wipe my dad out of the picture and put Jesus back in his rightful place. And since then, I have had a clearer vision of who I am as a child of God, and Jesus stands before me holy and blameless. So my identity has been completely transformed, and it then created a opportunity for me to not resent my dad anymore, but actually have a place of forgiveness inside of me that I didn't have before. And so I, from that trip, took home this feeling that I needed to start a relationship with my dad. But also from it came a song, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called Lord My Savior, and I wrote it at the Dominican Republic. So, yes. Okay, make sure. Okay. Lord, my Savior, how beautiful you are. Please surround us, fill this longing in our hearts. Oh, how you love us, oh, how you love us, and nothing can take your love away. Unfathomable, you're one for me. So much when I run, you patiently stay. much when I run you patiently. Stay. Your love will never change. You hear my cry in the dead of night. Jesus, your peace surpasses all we'd ever need. You ease us all. Oh, how you love us. Oh, how you love us. And nothing can take your love away. Unfathomable, you're one for me. So much when I run you patiently. Stay, oh God. You stay. Your love will never change. So, Hollywood Week. I didn't get aired. A lot of people are asking, what went on? Why didn't Ash get aired? So, with that being said, I'll share with you what happened during Hollywood Week. So, it was a very godly, beautiful, spiritual thing in the auditions week. But the devil was in hell, like in Hollywood Week. And they call it Hell Week, so hopefully that's okay with you and you'll forgive me for saying that word here. Yes, behind the cameras this week is called Hell Week, and boy was he in it. And I don't mean this to be like negative, it's just you get really tired during this week. It's basically a music boot camp where you are pent up in a hotel you have to sign away basically 2 weeks saying, yes, I'm fine to be here for X amount of days. So crazy, you're not sleeping much, and you're doing interviews all day, and it's just really, really, really intense, and it's a spiritual, mental, and physical battle all going on in this week. But boy, am I thankful that I had this identity shift before I got to Hollywood Week, because American Idol is a really cool show, and the judges are really sweet. And actually, I was very pleasantly surprised by how humble these celebrities are. I think a lot of the times we think, oh, like Katy Perry, she's like this crazy person, but she's really down to earth. Lionel Richie, sweetest heart, and Luke Bryan, just funny and down home country and really twangy. Really sweet people. But at the end of the day, this show is an acceptance-driven game, where as an artist, you are basically putting yourself on the line every single day, sharing your heart. For me, being super vulnerable with my story and with who I am. And so naturally, you're waiting to basically have them tell you whether you're worth it or enough. The judges and America at large. So it's a really, really intense process. I don't know how these people who don't know God did it, because their whole identity equates to what these people think of them. And that's not to say that this week was easy for me, because with life and being a Christian, there still come struggles. And this week for me, this week of Hollywood Week, I was dry heaving of nerves before my performances. Thank God that didn't get aired. I was on phone calls till 3 a.m. with my family here because Dylan flew to Colorado while I was in Hollywood Week. So I was FaceTiming him till 3 in the morning, and then, of course, Mama Corrine gets on. She's like, I want to pray for you, which helped, but the dry heaving didn't stop, unfortunately. And I was also in the thick of finals, and I'm a senior in college, so I don't know why I did this to myself, but I decided to stay in school while I was on the show. So here I am trying to get my business and music degree at 3 a.m. in the morning because it's all on Canvas. If you guys are familiar with that, it's just like your online schooling. That's how you're doing it. Yeah, see, we all know, all of us COVID students over here. But so a lot of my professors were really nice to let me take my final the week before Hollywood Week. But some of them were like, no, American Idol is second to school. You're gonna show up to my class. So I'll be kind of convenient. When's your call time? So I'm like, okay, well, I have to be camera ready by 5 a.m. in the morning. Okay, cool, okay. Then I'll open up your final for 3 a.m. I'm like, yeah, thank you. And this was also, full disclosure, this was my class that I was almost failing already. So I'm like, great, this is just the cherry on top. So anyway, this week was really tough. I'm doing finals, then I wake up the next day. Like I said, I've said it too many times now, but I was dry heaving because I wasn't eating. So, and of course that's really hard on your voice because you're scratching your vocal cords from that. And they catch wind of it downstairs in the hotel where the medics and all the people who are super COVID restriction, that you have to in order for the show to even be a thing this year, they had to really lock down on their COVID stuff. So they're worried that I have COVID. So they're like, stay upstairs and we'll come up and have the medics come up to you. We're gonna do COVID tests and you have to stay in your room. So I missed my mic check, which is really important because this stage is huge. We're at the Dolby Theater where they do Oscar awards. Super cool, but it's a huge adjustment to stand on that stage and get your head wrapped around it. So I missed my sound check, and this was the duet round at this point. So I had made it through the first round, and I sang a song solo, and then we got assigned our duet partners. So my duet partner's downstairs, freaking out because her duet partner's not there because they're not letting me come downstairs. So she texts me, and she's like, just forewarning you, they're telling me that I need to call you, and they're gonna put the camera on me and record this conversation. Something great. I'm gonna be the next dramatic moment on the show. Girl doesn't show up to her performance, and so I'm just freaking out. I'm like, I can't come down. They're not letting me come downstairs. So crazy time, and that was the round that I got sent home, but it was all in God's timing, and I was really grateful to even have gotten that far and even be shown on camera at all, because that's even just in and of itself a crazy cool opportunity and a rare thing to be considered. So really cool. And I went home that night and slept in a really comfortable bed, and I missed that. So yes, that was Hollywood Week. But I had to prepare about 3 other songs for that week in case I did have the chance where I made it into the next round. So I wanted to sing a song for you that I didn't get to perform on the show. And it's not one that I wrote. It is what I like to call one of my family heirlooms, because in my family, we didn't have the jewels or the gold or the things to pass down to the family. We did have a milk can. That is strangely something in our family that we pass down. It's like this decorative thing. And I was blessed with the milk can this year. Yeah, it's cute. It's like a cute, retro RH looking. You would like it. And it's really cute. But I got it this year. But my Nana was like, you do not sell that. If you don't want it anymore, you either give it back to me or you pass it on to the next family member. So anyway, those are our type of heirlooms. One of them is a song, and it's called Country Roads, Take Me Home by John Denver. So I love this song, has lots of really good memories tied to it for me. So I'm gonna sing it for you today. you doing? I'm just gonna do some interpretive dance. It's a really good song for that. He really would. I have to be careful. I won't. We won some Southwest gift card money because he was dancing. And I'm of course, that like, kind of like, stop, like, you're embarrassing me. And then all of a sudden, the people at the front desk, they're like, sir, please come over here. I'm like, see, you're in trouble. Shouldn't have done that. Comes back over, he's like, I got gift cards. Like, they thought I was great. So it always comes back to bite me in the butt because, you know, I'm trying to be the good one, but then he always like gets the good stuff. So anyway, that's funny. Yeah. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, and it's older than the trees, younger than the mountains, and it's blowing like a breeze. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. All my memories gathered round her, miner's lady, stranger to blue water, dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, and there's teardrops in my eyes. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home down country roads. I hear her voice in the morning as she calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home down country roads. Take me home down country roads. Take me home down country roads. What's next here? My list. Okay, got it. Well, I guess the story's already been told, but I'll kind of tell it this way. I'm a California girl, so how I got connected to Colorado, I'd never been to Colorado prior to marrying my husband, but kind of how I met him, he chased me down in a cafeteria, so that was a start. And I, at that point, was kind of like over boys. I was a freshman in college, and I like to call it mating season. All the boys like to find all the cute girls at college. So when you go to college, young ones, beware. The older boys are lurking. Usually it's not a good thing. But in my case, a really cute junior boy who was tall and handsome just chased me down. So I'm thinking, oh, like, okay. And he's like, can I call you? I'm old-fashioned that way. I'm like, that shouldn't have got me. Like, that was pretty, like, cheesy. But I'm like, huh, yes, here's my number. And I, like, ran off. And then I had a mentor at the time who actually happened to know him. So I was like, this will be good. Like, usually I'm just not good at picking guys, notoriously. So I can't give dating advice. Don't ask for it. It's not a good idea. But I decided, like, I need to take this seriously. First off, I need to not tell my mom because she will insta-stalk him until she knows everything about him. So usually I share all the details with my mom, but she's like, oh, like, who's this guy? I'm like, let me have a few weeks to, like, get to know him before I share his name because you're going to know more about him than I do in, like, a matter of seconds. So I first off was like, okay, this like, I'm a college girl now. I need to be more mature and handle my relationships a little bit more seriously. So I was like, had a mentor at the time who, like I said, knew him. They were in the same theater program together. And so I went out to dinner with her and I was like, I'm gonna go out with this guy. Like, he's gonna take me on a date to a country concert and like, it's gonna be so fun. She's like, oh, who? I'm like, Dylan Reuter. And she's like, oh no. And so I'm like, oh, great. Of course, here we go again, picking a not good guy. And she's like, no. She's like, over and over, no. Like, and I'm just like, okay. Why? He loves to treat girls like princesses. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And he's got a really good family. Like, all these things that she was thinking were bad. And I'm just like, okay. So anyway, I was warned to not date him. So naturally, I dated him. And it led to marriage. Of course, he's here today. Did a little interpretive dance for you. No. And the marriage is going great so far. So, no, I'm kidding. It's great. So that's how I'm here today. That's how I got connected to Chris Leach and the Leach family and Jubilee. But this next song that I'm gonna sing is one that if you listen to country radio, I know some people are like absolutely not ever gonna listen to country or love country. It's kind of like you have your polar opposites. But anyway, if you've listened to country radio, you've probably heard this song before. It was on the top charts, I wanna say a year ago, 2 years ago. And I really started to like this artist because she kind of borderlines like country, but pop, but not super country. And that's kind of where I tend to fall. So I really like this, and usually when I start to like an artist, I kind of go down like the rabbit hole of like, who is this person? How can I get to, oh my gosh, I sound like my mom. I want to find out all about you. So anyway, I researched this person, and this song, like I said, it's on country radio. It's a very country song. It's about mom and dad checking the tires and going fishing. So it's like a super countrified song. So I'm like, okay, like clearly she's like from like back in the like boondocks. No, she's from Highlands Ranch. So I'm like, okay, that's great. But full disclosure, I know you Highlands Ranch mothers have the really nice cars, you have beautiful homes, and you have your bougie purses. Nothing against that. Like, hey, I want a European car. Like, it's great. But I laugh at that because she's singing about the foothills of her hometown. And maybe there's some foothills in Highlands Ranch, but more than not, I see the, like, nice stores. So, laugh with me here as I sing this really country song about Highlands Ranch. I have to give credit to it because we're recording here. This is More Hearts Than Mine by Ingrid Andress. I'll try not to laugh too much, because I do love this song. I might do a parody of it at some point. Not today, but okay. Make sure it's in the right key. I can't wait to show you where I grew up. Walk you around the foothills of my town. It probably feels like you've been there before. After hearing all the stories I've been telling you for 6 months now. Probably have to sleep in separate bedrooms. Pack a shirt for church, but
Jubilee, because we'll go. Oh, and I'm not trying to scare you off, but I just thought that we should talk a few things out before we hit the road. If I bring you home, Mama, I guess I better warn you, she falls in love.
There we go.
And my dad'll check your tires, pour some whiskey over ice, and take you fishing, but pretend that he don't like you. Oh, if we break up, I'll be fine, but you'll be breaking more hearts than mine. My sister's gonna ask a million questions, say anything she can to turn you red. Oh, and when you meet my high school friends, we'll buy you drinks and fill you in on all the crazy nights I can't outlive. So if I bring you home to Mama, I guess I better warn you, she falls in love a little faster than I do. And my dad'll check your tires, pour some whiskey over ice, and buy you dinner, but pretend that he don't like you. Oh, if we break up, I'll be fine, but you'll be breaking more hearts than mine. Oh, so if I bring you home, Mama, I guess I better warn you, she feels every heartache I go through. And if my daddy sees me crying, he'll pour some whiskey over ice and tell a lie and say he never really liked you. Oh, if we break up, I'll be fine, but you'll be breaking more hearts than mine. You'll be breaking more hearts than mine.
Highlands Ranch Country, everybody. So before my husband and I got married, he went on a business trip to Europe. Very lucky ducky. And got to go to like 8 countries in like a month's worth of time. So I was really jealous because I've never, at that point, other than the Dominican Republic, had never gone out of the country. So he got to go on this trip. And at that point, we were dating for a while, but our whole entire dating life was all college. So he lived right next to campus, I lived on campus. So our whole relationship was on an everyday basis. We were seeing each other every single day. So for him to be gone for over a month, was really tricky. I had never done long distance relationship before, and let alone he was in a country that was a 9-hour difference, so the communication was gonna be really tough. So I was bored, it was summer, and I decided to start writing a song about his trip, as a way to cope, I guess you could say. But I'd also never had a song. Oh, thank you. We love our tech people. Anyway, I had never had a song written about me before. So I went ahead and wrote one for myself. And it's from his perspective. So if it's a little weird, just go with it. But just pretend he's singing it to me. So this is called Favorite Place. Trying to remember. Okay.
Hey, the plane ride is kinda boring. The man next to me snoring, and on my left, she hums a tune. And here, I'm trying to get some shut-eye, but I can't since our last goodbye, 'cause every mile gets further from you. But I'll still call you from the telephone booth and say, here in London, it's a beautiful day. But to throw you off how all the cars drive the other way. And I know that I am half a world away, but in a crowd, I find I only look for your face. I'd be taking photographs if you came, but they're not worth it 'cause you're not standing in the frame. And I know that it might sound a bit cliche, but no matter where I go, you're my favorite place. Hi. Now the accordions are playing, the lovebirds, they are swaying to Louis' La Vie en Rose. And you are probably sitting in your bedroom reading this letter that I sent you. So shut your eyes and listen close, and I'll still call you from the land where love grows and say, here in Paris, I found that old cafe, the one where all the French, they like that bitter taste. I don't. All I could think about is how you would complain, but that's okay, 'cause when you're moody, I'll still love you the same. And I'm moody a lot. Love you. The Eiffel Tower looks much better when it's not in pain, but every time I'm standing with you, I relate. And I know that it might sound a bit cliche, but no matter where I go, you're my favorite place. You're my favorite place. Where I'm walking through that front door, out the slider to the back porch, where you'll be in my arms again. And home, they say that home is where the heart is, and I can't stand it when we're parted. So say my arms are where you'll stay, 'cause you're my favorite, and I'd never change it, 'cause you're my favorite place.
So, with all of that dreaming and wanting to go to Paris, my husband was great and took me to Paris when we got married for our 1-year anniversary. So that was really fun. But, well, yes, good stuff. And it was right before the pandemic, so we were literally there. We landed back in the US on March 9th, and I think the pandemic started on the 11th, whenever it was. You know, it's been a while. But anyway, we were in Paris having a romantic time, and you called, and you're like, I'll pay for you guys to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower. So we did, and it was really great. But we get up there, and the Eiffel Tower is kind of swaying. So for those of you who haven't been to the top yet, sorry to spoil it for you. It's a little terrifying if you're scared of heights, because you can feel it. Like, you're standing like, whoa, that's cool. Oh my gosh, it's moving. So we're doing that. And on top of that, this song that I just sang called Favorite Place was when we went to Paris, we were filming a music video for it. So we're at the top of the Eiffel Tower. We have our phones out like a typical tourist, but we're also filming for this song, Favorite Place. And all of a sudden, the souvenir photographers, I don't know the actual term, but the people who worked for the Eiffel Tower who had cameras were kind of like, oh, like, how do you, bonjour. So they're coming, that's the only word I know. And so anyway, they're like trying to like, oh, let us take pictures of you. And so we already have our camera. Dylan does photography work on the side. So we already have our nice camera, and we're like, no, it's okay. Well, they keep approaching us. So we're kind of like, okay, like, shoot, like, we're trying to video. So they keep following us. So Dylan has this genius idea, because he's fluent in Spanish, to start talking to them in Spanish in hopes that they didn't speak Spanish so that they would stop talking to us. I have to add, I do not speak Spanish at all. So I'm like, great, they're gonna start, okay, well, I can't speak Spanish. So I'm like starting to walk away. But these French people are quadlingual, apparently, because they start speaking to us in broken Spanish with French accents. That was a first. So they start talking to us, and I'm like, great, like they're gonna try to talk to me in Spanish, and I'm just gonna be like, sí, because that's all I know. So he's having a conversation with them at this point, because it's like, well, there's no way around it. They just speak Spanish, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. So they kind of bully us into like the souvenir shop, to the like stand where they print out these pictures that they had taken of us. And we're, in there talking with them. They're still trying to talk to me in Spanish, and I'm still going, sí. I don't know. I'm like, Dylan, like, please just do all the work. Well, turns out I was saying sí to buying a $75, euros, so it's probably more than that, for a really pixelated photo that we still haven't looked at to this day. So there's that. Don't try to speak Spanish to the French. They know Spanish. But yes, so with all that to say, this American Idol experience has been really cool. It's definitely been something that's opened so many doors for me in my music, and just in ministry in general, as I've shared with you. But my husband has been such a big support. Obviously, my dad and I's relationship was a big part of this story. But the piece that has really gone unnoticed a lot of this time has been my mom. And she's arguably the most important piece. So I grew up with a long line of generational pastors and women in ministry, and it's been amazing. I love it. I love church environment. It feels very at home for me. But as a young girl who wanted to write songs that weren't necessarily songs that you would sing on a Sunday morning, not that they were like bad or anything, just not what you would sing on Sunday, I think I put this pressure on myself, this unintentional pressure, but I really wrestled with this tension of how do I serve God and be worshipful in my music, even if it doesn't mean that it's a song that I wrote for Sunday morning. And I do write some worship songs, but I really have felt this pull in my life for God to make me go into an industry that is godless for the most part. So I was kind of wrestling with that, because I know that for a lot of people, and I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone or anything, I'm not trying to put words in people's mouth, but I think so often we equate a music career as self-seeking, money-centered, and vain. And that's true a lot of the time. I've seen it. It's real. It's there. But that was never my intention. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the fame. It's just genuinely something that God has really been moving me into in my life. And so having that tension of how do I still serve? How is it still ministry? That was always a question. And I think God has been so good and so faithful and has shown me over and over again how my music has not only been a way for me to cope as a person and write about things that had I not written them in a song, I wouldn't have been able to get them out and think about them. It's also been a way for me to understand God more and connect with God through music. But more than anything, for me, my music has been my way to communicate the gospel to people that aren't in the church, and not by writing the Christianese terminology in songs, which is not bad. I love worship music, but I wasn't writing like that, and I still saw how God was using my music and my lyrics to heal and bring redemption and forgiveness and love to people and bring people together in a way that's the only way I know how to. So it's been really cool to see how God has used my music to heal people, heal myself, heal my family. And so with that, after American Idol, my mom has been like, so when's my song coming out? She was kind of joking because she didn't know I wrote a song about her. And 6 months ago, after I want to say the first week of American Idol, my husband and I, Dylan, were talking about, and I've talked about this with my brother even too, how many years where my dad wasn't really around, my mom and my Nana were the people who raised me. And they were such good women. My Nana's a widow, so she was a single woman. She took us in when my parents were separated, and I lived with her. So I feel like I had two incredible women throughout my life raising me, and also just fervently praying for my dad throughout his whole life. And I think that the way my mom has demonstrated love, and even so far as commitment to my dad all these years, has been the most beautiful gift that I have received as a daughter, and my brother as my mom's son, to see this unconditional love no matter what. So while my dad wasn't always really there, my mom really was an integral part of who I am today. So I wrote a song for them, and it's called Women Raising Women. And I like to share this story, how it only took me 10 minutes to write. And I usually don't. That sounds like I'm bragging, but I just want to say I think it took 22 years for me to live through, and only 10 minutes to allow God to just spew this song out of me. So with that, this is Women Raising Women, and I hope you like it. It's not out yet, so no one's heard it, so you're the first audience. So that's pretty cool. So thank you for listening, and it'll be out on streaming services soon this summer. So if you follow me on my Instagram at Ash Reuter, shameless plug, follow me on Instagram at Ash Reuter, just as it's spelled on American Idol, or Ash Reuter Music on my Facebook page. You'll get updates if you're interested in knowing more about that and where I'm gonna be at, what we're doing, and all that. So thank you so much for having me. This is Women Raising Women. I don't know what just happened there. I'm sniffling. It's not COVID, I promise.
There's no doubt how I got raised. I got a smack on the hand when I misbehaved. I had a mom by herself take care of me, while daddy's on the town and I'm asleep. And Nana's been a widow since I was born. She demonstrates I go over to her house when I was bored. Well, Daddy was out at the liquor store. But I've been raised by women raising women, and I've been saved from the hell that Daddy's living. And I pray for these women raising women. And I thank God each day for every breath I take and the lives at stake for women raising women. Mama walked me through all my mistakes. She taught me life moves on even if it seems I can't. Yeah, she loved the girl she knew that I could be. And she prayed for her to someday believe. My Nana always knew how to take me to church. She pulled the Bible out and read me the word. Never let me down, they never made things worse. Nana knew how to make a girl not hurt. And I've been raised by women raising women, and I've been saved from the hell that Daddy's living. And I pray for these women raising women. And I thank God each day for every breath I take and the lives at stake through women raising women. When I got good, Daddy sobered up. All the prayers Mama prayed, no, she never gave up. Oh, and Nana stopped telling her to get divorced. She always shows her good love, now she's thanking the Lord. Yeah, I've been raised monkey by women raising women, and I've been saved from the hell that Daddy's living. And I pray for these women raising women. And I thank God each day for every breath I take and the lives He saved through women raising women. Women raising women. Women raising women.
Thank you.